Hello guys, and welcome back to another video on One Rovers Vlogs. Now today I'm going to be bringing you my 2019-20 League One predictions video. Now we're only 2 weeks away. I thought it'd be a good idea to finally bring out this video and give my overall thoughts on who's going to get relegated, who's going to survive relegation, who's going to finish mid-table, who's going to get in the playoffs, and finally who is going to pick up that League One winners trophy. Now 24 for me then is going to be Bury. Now obviously they got promoted last season, but since they've been promoted, you know, they've got a ton of problems, money problems. They're going to be on -12. You know, they've lost pretty much all their squad from last year: Danny Mayer, Nicky Maynard, Dom Telford, etc. And obviously I feel really sorry for the fans, but I think they will finish bottom of the league and be the first team to get relegated. Now 23rd might be a bit of a shock, obviously, because they're a big club, but 23rd for me is Bolton Wanderers. Now obviously they had an awful season last year, finished second bottom of the league. Obviously really bad problems going on there as well, pretty much the same as Bury. Also on -12 starting off the season. Obviously they did have 6 or 7 players in the squad only, but apparently now it's only one, with Jason Lowe being left. Obviously they've lost everyone else. You know, it's really bad for the fans. They've only got the youth team and they've had trialists in the pre-season. The last 2 pre-season games they've had to cancel, so I don't know whether they're even going to be a club, but for now they are 23rd in my prediction. Now 22nd is AFC Wimbledon. Now obviously they've done the great escape last year, obviously midway through the season, and with only 20 games to go it looked like they were down for definite, but they did manage to survive. Obviously they had Joe Pigott, who was quality last year, I think got over 20 goals. Obviously this season they brought in a few players, Luke O'Neill from Gillingham, Trott as well on loan from West Ham, but they've got rid of 10 players, a lot of experienced players, and I think this time they will be going down. Now 20th is another team that nearly got relegated last year, and that is Rochdale. Now obviously they had Keith Hill pretty much all the way through the season, apart from the last 15 games, where they had Barry Murphy. Obviously they had Ian Henderson last year, obviously top goal scorer again for again, but obviously I think they're going to struggle again this year. They conceded the most goals last year, 87, so I think this year they will go down and they are the last team to be relegated. Now going on into 20th, I think it's going to be Wycombe Wanderers. Now obviously last year again for them they did struggle. They did play well some games, but obviously they didn't score enough goals. Obviously Akinfenwa just signed a new contract. You know, they bring in Paul Smith from QPR, pacey striker. They have got some decent players, but I think they will just survive for me. So going on into 19th, it's another team, Accrington. Obviously they finished 14th last year, but it was only a 5 points separating them from relegation. I think they will stay up again. Obviously they got a good manager, really good mentality. Obviously a small club, don't get many fans, but fair play to them, and I think they will stay up once again. Now going into 18th, and it's a newly promoted team, and that is Tranmere Rovers. Now obviously they've been promoted twice in the last 2 seasons. Obviously won the League 2 playoff final last year, got a great manager. Obviously they lost James Norwood, gone to Ipswich, 32 goals for them last year. They bring in some decent players like George Ray, you know, also Kieran Morris from Walsall. They've got some decent players like Ollie Banks and Davis, the goalkeeper. And I think they will stay up, and I think Tranmere fans will be happy with that, considering they've lost Norwood. Now going into 17th, it's a club that a lot of people don't like, but MK Dons. I think they can do better. Obviously it depends on what other players they bring in. Obviously they lost Chuck Zanike to Charlton Athletic, 21 goals last year. Obviously still got Agard, and they got Healy back on loan, done well for them last year. Also signed Brennan Dickinson and Regan Paul, a good centre-back from United. Obviously was on loan at Newport last year, but I think they'll have a decent season. They might even do better, but 17th is where I'd put them. Now 16th, Ingham. Obviously brought in a new manager. I think they finished 15th or 14th last season. Obviously they've lost Tom Eaves, which is a massive loss, 40 goals over the last 2 years, 22 goals last year. They've also lost Thomas Holy, the goalkeeper. They are bringing some good players though. Stuart O'Keefe, ex-Cardiff, Nathan Thomas and Jack Bonham's also a really good keeper. They could do better if they replace Eaves, but for now I put them at 16th. Now 15th is a team that you probably wouldn't put there, but for now I put them there, and that is Doncaster Rovers. Now obviously last year they got to the playoff semi-finals, lost against Charlton on penalties. Obviously they still got Marquis, but I don't think he'll be there. I think he'll go to either the Championship or maybe Sunderland. But from last year they've lost 8 players from the first team that finished. Obviously Rowe, obviously Herbie Kane, Malik Wilkes, Morosi the goalkeeper, Downing, Danny Andrews the left back. They are bringing Reece James and Leeds midfielder Gomez, also Halliday from Cambridge. Obviously they got a new manager in Darren Moore. I think it's a really good appointment. I think if he can bring some good signings in, they will probably do a lot better, but for now I think they will finish there. Now 14th is a team that did quite poor last season, but I think that was because they was in the FA Cup for a long time, and that was Shrewsbury Town. Now obviously, like I said, they was in a lot of competitions, mainly the FA Cup. They got really far. Obviously they bring in Steve Morrison on loan, which I think is a really good signing, even though he's a lot older now. They bring in Max O'Leary somehow from Bristol City. Obviously played the second half of the season at Bristol City. I thought he was excellent last year for them. They've also brought in Aaron Pierre, the centre-back. Also Landell. They got some good players like Wally Norburn and David Edwards, so I think they'll do quite well this year after a poor season last year. Now 13th is another team that did quite poor, and that is Southend. Now Southend, obviously they sacked their manager as well, and they did bring in Bond as well, so he's the new manager. Obviously they didn't have a good season last year, survived on the last day after beating Sunderland at home, but they were hampered with injuries. Obviously they have got some really good players like Simon Cox, Humphreys, McLaughlin, Oxley in goal, good midfield as well. Got some good youngsters as well like Drew Yearwood and the right back Bawamyo, but I think they will do better this season, because obviously past season they have done quite well. Moving into 12th, the top half of the table, and 12th I've picked Burton Albion. Now obviously got a really good manager in Nigel Clough, a very well organised team, don't really concede many goals. Obviously they got good players like Akins and Boyce. Brayford and Buxton also signed new contracts as well, which is good for them. They've lost Harness recently to Portsmouth, really good pacey winger. They've made a few signings, but I don't really think they've made decent signings. O'Toole and O'Hara, the goalkeeper. So yeah, I think mid-table is about right for Burton Albion this year. Now in 11th, I've gone Oxford United. Obviously, first half of the season they were so poor last year, but second half they done really well. Ended up finishing mid-table. They got some good players like Cameron Brannigan, Gavin White, Sykes as well, the midfielder. They also signed Tariq Fosu, good winger from Charlton. Obviously got a decent manager in Carl Robinson, and I think they can do even better if they replace Nelson, who they lost to Cardiff, and maybe getting another striker. I think they'll have an even better season. Now in 10th, I've gone with my club, Bristol Rovers. I think obviously last year we had Dow midway through. Obviously Coughlin come in, brought in Clark Harris in January, and he pretty much saved us. I think he got 13 goals in 19 games. So, but we have made some good signings this year. Yakola, the goalkeeper, Mark Little as well. I think we could do with maybe another pacey winger, and I think we'll have a decent season. Now in 9th, I've gone with Blackpool. Now obviously, like Bolton and Bury, they used to have big problems with obviously the Oystons, but I think this year obviously that's all sorted. I think the fans will be back supporting the boys. They signed Sully Kaikai, really good winger from Holland. Obviously used to play for Palace, Brentford and Shrewsbury. Adi Youssef as well. They also signed Rangers young striker Ryan Hardy. I think it's a really good signing. They've obviously got good players there already like D'Alfonso and Spearing. And they signed Ryan Edwards as well from Plymouth, a really good centre-back. So yeah, I think 9th is just about right for Blackpool. Now in 8th is Coventry. Now obviously last year they finished 8th as well. Obviously this year they won't be playing at the Ricoh, they will be at St Andrews where Birmingham City play. Obviously got a good manager. They have lost a few players like Chaplin. Obviously Sterling last year on loan from Chelsea, he's not there anymore, but they have got some really good players like Tom Bayliss, Bakayoko. Obviously they've lost Thomas as well, but they've signed Burton duo, Jamie Allen and Kyle McFadden. They've also signed a winger from France called Yabello. And they also signed a really good winger from the Netherlands as well. So I think obviously 2 more weeks to go. If they can get in a few more signings, they might even look to push in the playoffs, even though they are playing at a different stadium. But I still think they do really well. Now in 7th, I've gone for a newly promoted team, and that is Lincoln City. Now, obviously managed by the Cowley brothers. Obviously won League 2 last year. They pretty much ran away with the league. They've got some really good players: Akindi, Jason Shackle, Bolger, Boswick. Obviously they're on really good momentum. Got a lot of confidence. Scored a lot last year. Bringing in some really good signings. Jack Payne, who done really well at a struggling Bradford team last year. Also George Grant from Forest was on loan at Mansfield. Done really well last year. And I think they got a really good chance of getting in the playoffs this season. Now 6th, I've gone for a team relegated from the Championship, and that is Rotherham United. Obviously got Paul Warren as manager. Obviously they could have stayed up last year, but they did concede too many goals. They've lost a few good players from last year: Will Volks and Joel Newell, also Ryan Williams as well, who went to Pompey. They have still got some good players. Obviously experienced player Richard Wood, who obviously won the playoff final for them when they went up to the Championship. Obviously Carlton Morris on loan. Sean McDonald he was at Wigan last year. Also Freddie Ladapo, 18 goals for Plymouth, and also still good players like Michael Smith. So they could do even better if they sign a few more, but for now they will be going in 6th. Now 5th might be a bit of a surprise, and that is Fleetwood Town. Now obviously managed by Joey Barton. Obviously had a decent season last year. Obviously Evans has gone back to Sheffield United. Obviously they still got Madden. Made some really good signings at this level. Paul Coots, excellent signing. Obviously they signed Josh Morris, who was there before from Fleetwood, but they signed him from Scunny. They've also signed Lewis Coyle again, and also Suter, who was excellent for them last year. They signed Rossiter on loan as well. And I think if they get another striker, I think they can have a really good season, especially with players like they got already, like Hunter as well. So yeah, into 4th, and 4th for me is Sunderland. Obviously a massive club. Obviously then when they got relegated, they thought they was going to smash the league pretty much, but obviously they found it quite tough. Obviously a lot of the Sunderland fans don't like the way the manager plays, but they have got some really good players. Obviously Greg, they spent a few million on him. Obviously last year they lost in the playoff final, obviously heartbreak for their fans. They have signed McLaughlin, the right back, who used to play for Millwall, and also Jordan Willis, who was at Coventry. I think they also signed Lee Burge, who was also ex-Coventry. I think he'll be back up this season. But if they can sign, maybe a winger as well. Obviously, they got McGeady, he signed a new contract. They need a few defenders, I think, and also maybe another striker. And I think they could even do better than fourth. Now, third is another team who's usually up there, and that is Peterborough United. Now, obviously managed by Darren Ferguson. Obviously, last year they were top for about 10, 12 games, but obviously faded off. And they didn't get in the playoffs either, just missed out. But they signed some really good players like Moisa, spent 1.5 million on him. Beavers, obviously already got good players like Dembele, Matty Godden, even Tony Madison, who I think is going to stay. And yeah, they've signed some really good players. Also, the left back from Newport, Butler. Also, Kent from Colchester. So yeah, I think they'll have a really good year and maybe they'll win the playoffs. Now, second for me, I think it's a close decision for first and second, but second I've gone with Portsmouth. Now, obviously, last year they lost in the playoff semi-final. They were top for a lot of time during the season. Obviously, they've lost Matt Clark, who I think was one of the best centre-backs last year in the league. Obviously, gone to Premier League Brighton. They are bringing Paul Downing as his replacement and Sean Raggett. Obviously, got a really good squad. A lot of quality and good depth as well. Obviously, Pittman, Lowe's still there, Curtis. They signed Ryan Williams, ex-Rovers player Ellis Harrison. So yeah, I think they'll have another really good season. I think this year is their year to go up. Now, winning the league in first is going to be Ipswich. Now, obviously, they had an awful season last year. Obviously, didn't get many wins, lost a lot of games, but they have got rid of pretty much all the deadwood they had last year. They bring in, obviously, Norwood on a free, which is an excellent signing. I think he'll probably be top goal scorer again. Obviously, Luke Garber, a good left back from Everton, was on loan at Oxford last year. Also, Holy, the goalkeeper from Gillingham. And obviously, they've got a good mix of experience and youth. Obviously, Dozzle is a good young player. They got Scouse, Grion Edwards, and they got a really good team. So yeah, guys, that is my 2019-20 League One predictions. Please leave any comments if you think I was right or if I'm wrong. And yeah, thanks for watching. It's been much appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and also subscribe. It would mean a lot. Cheers, guys.